Well, the Archbishop of Canterbury is apparently baffled by Christians who back President Trump.
I really genuinely do not understand where that is coming from. I think we can have different views on many of the issues he's raised. I don't understand it, is the simple answer.
Well, white evangelical Christians have been a key part of President Trump's base, with 80% of them voting for him in 2016. And joining us now to discuss is Fox News contributor Pastor Robert Jeffress. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Heather.
So the Archbishop of Canterbury just doesn't understand. He says he's baffled. Can you explain it to him?
Look, it's not that hard to understand why conservative Christians support this president in such great numbers. Beyond President Trump's excellent leadership in reviving the economy, rebuilding the military, remaking the judiciary, President Trump has become the most pro-religious liberty, pro-life president in U.S. history. Earlier this year, I was privileged to be with him in the Rose Garden when he signed that sweeping religious liberty executive order. And at that time, Heather, he said, as long as I'm president, no American will ever have to choose between practicing his faith and obeying the law. And on the pro-life front, he's done exactly what he said he would do. He's appointed a conservative chief justice to the Supreme Court. He's packing the courts with federal judges who will protect life as well. When the Archbishop says he's baffled, what's really baffling to me is why a religious leader like the Archbishop wouldn't support a pro-life, pro-religious leader like President Trump.
And it seems like the majority of white evangelicals agree with you when you take a look at the work that's been done since he's been in office. We can take a look at those numbers. This poll is from October of 2017. Do you approve or disapprove of the job that Donald Trump is doing as president? 66% approve, with 31% disapproving. So where do you think the Archbishop is getting his information?
I think the Archbishop is accessing his own personal prejudice here. That's why he is so baffled. You know, when you read his comments in totality, he seems to feel like he is morally superior to President Trump. That's what it is at the heart of this. And he reminds me of the religious leaders Jesus condemned when he talked about religious leaders who have a self-inflated view of their own righteousness and look down on others. Look, all of us are sinners. We all need a Savior. That's the heart of the Christian message. You would think somebody like the Archbishop would understand that.
Do you think it's also a case of misinformation being put out there across the world by the mainstream media? When you look at the headlines, you don't see the headlines about that you just mentioned at the top of the segment, all of the good things that are going on. You hear all these negative things, and you hear people calling the president names and disparaging him. Is that what he's listening to?
I think that's partly true, Heather, and I think this illustrates just the divide between the establishment elites, whether it's governmental, political, or religious elites, and the average person. I mean, you remember that during the election, many religious leaders were opposed to President Trump, and yet it's the people in the pew who swept him into office. And right now, it is still the average person in the pew who continues to support this president as he delivers on his promises.
Yeah, well, the nativity scene is back in the White House, and we're saying Merry Christmas. Pastor, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Appreciate your insight.